I just finished farming the Hell 6 full Mountebank set. That's the 2-piece, 4-piece, and 6-piece. And we're going to figure out exactly how good this set is today. If you don't know what it does, the 2-piece gives you a 20% chance to gain a shield equal to 13% of your maximum life each time you take damage. The 4-piece is going to increase that to 33% of your max life, and you can move unhindered through enemies while the shield is up. And then the 6-piece is going to give you a 25% chance to explode when it expires. This gives you 40% damage of your maximum life. Considering the fact that your life can get quite high, I have 114% life. How much damage does this actually end up doing? On the right is going to be 0 resonance, whereas on the left will be with 3,000 resonance. It makes sense because we're increasing our life with resonance after all. So this set is going to get stronger the more resonance you have. I also removed damage gems in order to test it with higher and lower damage, and the damage had no effect. I added life gems instead of damage gems, immediately gained thousands of damage upon the shield, making life the obvious option here for synergy. The critical damage for this was about 160,000 with 3,000 resonance, and just about 80,000, 75,000 with 0 resonance. This is going to make Paragon points of gaining life especially important if you're going to be utilizing this set, as typically you would be focusing on things like damage, armor penetration, etc. The life becomes infinitely more valuable than those stats, as it's going to scale your Mountebank set easier. Should also mention Paragon trees are typically just a way to get a lot of life fairly for free anyway. In PvP, every time you get this shield up, you typically are getting nuked and focused down. You're receiving damage, and it takes damage in order for a chance for the shield goes up. Well, if you're getting nuked, very often the shield's not going to trigger, because if the shield gets destroyed before it expires by time, the damage won't go off. So most of the times that you're getting focused down where the shield actually pops off, it doesn't really matter, except for an example sort of like this one where you're getting a 1v1. But very often, 1v1 scenarios, one person's going to be running away at the end of it, and you're not really getting the value out of the shield. It seems hard in order for it to be good in PvP. And if it is good in PvP, it's probably because you have tons of resonance in your well, which means you're kind of snowballing anyway. However, this is kind of balanced by the fact that the shield is only every 9 seconds. I mean, it's quite often you can have the shield, so in most encounters, you are actually getting the shield. So you tend to be tankier than you normally would expect yourself to be in most situations because of how often the cadence of the shield coming up is. The other thing is, if you're a barbarian or a melee-based class, this shield is probably actually quite important for you, because on things like a monk, where you're going to dash in, have a little bit of time, then dash out, it's going to give you a little bit more of a burst opportunity and be able to trade some more value in HP, because they're kind of chunking from your shield and you're chunking from their actual life pool if they don't have one of these. So I could see some arguments being made for it to be decent in PvP, but maybe only the 4-piece set, because the 6-piece set with the damage doesn't really proc that often unless you are overwhelming in terms of your life pool compared to the person you're fighting against, which I just don't think is the majority of the people who are watching this video. Really, if you have higher resonance, it becomes better. Also, with things like Phoenix Ashes, Gladiator, Chi Death, the Undying Rage from the Barbarian, etc., there is a world in which you live, and in a fight, you can have the shield proc literally multiples of times. So while this does actually tend to have the highest ceiling in terms of damage output in the game, there is another set which I say does something somewhat similar, which I much prefer, which would actually be your continual damage set. You see, you do the actual damage, which is based upon your damage, so you can optimize your DPS better, but it also does a stun. The set effect of the Mountebanks only does a shield, for example, so this is really more of a defensive option, and you have to be receiving damage in order for this to actually happen, which is kind of where the fallacy of it lies and why it's better on melee classes. Whereas things like the Slit Throat 6-piece set has an opportunity to have like a stun as well as damage, and this damage can actually hit almost as high as the Mountebank set, for instance. But the thing is, it is a 40-second cooldown. That is where the Mountebanks really comes in handy, because this shield, 40% of your max life, is only on the cooldown of the 9 seconds. So every 9 seconds, you're getting the opportunity for this, which means in things like overworld farming, dungeons, etc., it's actually pretty good in PvE because of how often you have the opportunity for that to trigger. Things like the Slit Throat might be better and maybe a little bit more reliable and all that, but it is only every 40 seconds. Something that's interesting about this set is it will trigger while you're AFK, even if you're AFK a while, meaning you can actually stand in some spaces and have a minion respawn, and it will kill the minion will respawn again, attack you, and it will kill the minion again. Make of this what you will, but it's a mechanic that works. You might be thinking, well, hey DM, what about that new legendary gem for shields? You mean this one? Yes, the Heartstone. Well, about that, I ranked him one for the sake of this video, so let's see how good it is for this. Here is what a full shield looks like with the Heartstone rank 10 equipped. Now here it is without the rank 10 Heartstone. You can see it's significantly shorter. Here we go, the shield's up. It lasts longer now, if you know this, but it still has the opportunity to explode at the end. It's still 9 seconds between each shield. What this effectively ends up meaning is while the shields are lasting longer, the time in between the shields are effectively shorter now. AKA the total percentage of time that we're shielded versus the percentage of time that we're not shielded has increased. However, the total number of detonations remains the same, as you can still only create one shield every 9 seconds, and this still is shorter than 9 seconds. It's still only a 25% chance for an explosion every 9 seconds, so the DPS doesn't change, just the amount of time your shield is up changes. What all of this means is if you're interested in min-maxing this, you can use the Heartstone gem, though it's not actually going to increase your damage of the shield or how large the shield is. The best thing you can do for actually making this stronger is putting ruby gems in the red spot to increase the life for it to work off of. Give as much resonance as you can, as this will increase your equipment base attributes, which will increase your life as well. Focus on getting as much vitality stats in order to increase your life. And then in the Paragon tree, take as much of the life points as you possibly can to increase your life as well. If you get all of these, this will give you a larger shield, which will make you tankier, but it also makes you do more damage with this set. So all in all, how do I feel about this set? I actually think it's quite good in its versatility. It does something fairly standard that will go across all classes. All you have to do is be hit in order for this to actually do something. The shield amount is fairly generous once you get the 4-piece, and it can be enough to make it fairly casual in dungeons, etc., where you get a little bit of damage, you're not as stressed about it, you even get the explosion on occasion, which will help you with both overworld farming on the map, just normal pack to pack, as well as going from dungeon group to dungeon group. I actually quite like this set a lot. I find it to be my lazy man's answer to most things. Keep in mind in PvP, if you get nuked, the shield doesn't explode, so for that reason, it doesn't seem as viable in PvP if you are behind the average person. If you have way more health than the average guy, then this is sort of a snowball mechanic, because this does actually contribute more for wells than it does for free to play, as resonance will increase your life for the reasons I've talked about, which increases exactly how strong this shield is, which increases how much damage you do, yada, yada, yada. For these reasons, this is a well-friendly set, but it is also free to play viable if you're going to be doing PvE, for instance. It does not do as much damage for having lower HP, but it is still going to be one of your harder hitting, if not your hardest hitting move. For instance, it does more damage than any of my gems currently in the game. All in all, I give this set about 7.5 out of 10 in terms of just overall grade. I love you all. If you like this, consider subscribing to the channel or liking the video for a more in-depth breakdown that I've done today, and I'll see you guys on the next video.